Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sash Star, and today I have esteemed guest Dr. Milan Sambrak. Please welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here and honored as well. Thank you for inviting me.
Some technical issues, probably. Okay, glad to see you, Milan. How are you today?
Only decline is possible because it couldn't be any better, and I hope that all our viewers can say the same. Technical issues you were talking about, Sasha, I have video conferences with my colleagues a couple of times a week, and hardly ever do we have one without some technical issues. It seems to be a part of the operation, part of life. Technical issues are a part of life, aren't they? Yeah.
Accepted. Accepted, Milan.
Uh,
Yesterday, two very important things happened, and they may affect today's market performance, which so far it's almost everything is in red to larger or to smaller extent. Uh, Let me see. What do you think? How these two very important events affecting today market? Number one, the uh, credit rating of the United States is being downgraded. I don't remember
yeah,
when
right. Yeah.
last time it's ever happened. And number two, the front runner by far, the former president Donald Trump, was indicted yesterday on four criminal charges by grand jury. So, how do you think these two events affecting today's market?
How these events affect today's market is really not that important because we need to look at long term when it comes to investing. The Trump issue is an interesting one in that he could go to jail and he could be elected president. In the next election, we could have a president running the country out of jail. It's possible. Not likely, but possible. And a number of things that we can learn from the Chinese, for example. One is they drink their soup. Drinking your soup is easier than using a spoon. But the other thing is that the higher they go up in government, the more qualified they need to be by passing civil service exams. So what happens in North American context, in Canada and in the United States, somebody like Trump, who is really in it for himself, me, myself, and I, and he's a crook, can get elected. People with an IQ of 90 can get elected in the Western world. That doesn't happen in China. They have to qualify to a significantly greater extent the higher up they go. So that's something that we need to take a look at, and that's something that we could learn from the Chinese. Now, their human rights issues are terrible, and they have many other failings too. But requiring people running for office to meet a certain standard of ability is useful. And we ought to take a look at that. Now, you're talking about what effect will Trump and the downgrade of the American economy have a short term. The downgrade of the American economy is it's now a double A plus. It's just below triple A. So it's not down a whole lot. And like I said earlier, the most important thing is think long term. So let me quote David Swensen, who ran the Yale Endowment for a long time, some 20 years ago. And the Yale Endowment was the best performing university endowment of all. The Harvard Endowment is larger, but the Yale Endowment, it was the best performing of all. So I'll quote David Swensen, who ran it. He said, when you look at the results on an after-fee, after-tax basis over a reasonably long period of time, there's almost no chance that you end up beating the index fund. So what is long time? Oh, yeah. He also said security selection and market timing make no material contribution to returns. And he also said asset allocation accounts for the largest share of portfolio returns. So now, what is a long time? I think you asked me one time, well, how much do I have what is a long time? The longest time that the market has been down was during the 1929 crash, and it was down for just over 4 years. That means that it is very likely that if we look at the market in a 5-year period, it will be up. It would probably be up in a 3-year period and likely in 2 and 1. So the short-term effects, when you take a look at what happened today and yesterday, the market was down. Market was down for 1 day, market was down for 2 days, may have been down for the week, I'm not sure. But for the month, it's up, and for the year, it's up. So that's hardly long term. We're talking about 6, 8, 10 months, the market is up. And it will fluctuate as much as 30%. That historically has been the case. So it's likely to repeat itself. But if we don't have in the market the money that we're going to need in the next couple of years to take a holiday, to buy our groceries, to pay our municipal taxes, and so on, that money does not belong in the market. If we keep that out of the market, we will be investing in the best performing investment that there is, which has been the U.S. market for over 100 years. And yes, if you start cherry picking, for example, stamps, some stamps have done better than the market, cherry picking. If we cherry pick things like violins, most recent price ever paid for a violin was something like $16 million, which violin 50 years ago went for less than 10,000. So cherry picking, if we're going to cherry pick other investments, that could be Toronto, Vancouver, San Francisco real estate, we should then cherry pick the stock market as well. And if we do that, we're looking at Facebook and Amazon and Apple and Netflix and Google and Tesla. But I have only been able to do that with hindsight. And I have to say, most investors trail the market by 40%. Most investors, the average investor, trails the market by 40%. Equaling the market is something that we can teach a high school student in less than 15 minutes, how to equal the market. And that the result has been not inflation adjusted, about 10% annually over the last very long time, over 100 years. Inflation adjusted a little over 6%. Over 100 years, that's been the case with fluctuations, sometimes as much as 30%. So if we have all our money in the market and it drops 30% and we have to take money out as sell securities for less than we paid for them because we have to pay our municipal taxes and buy groceries and so on, that's a terrible place to be. So that money that we're going to need does not belong in the market. Money that we have in the market will do better than any other investment unless we cherry pick. So,
Milan, I always wanted to ask you, and I'm very curious about how the average investor is losing 40% compared to S&P. What kind of investments these people are making or doing, and how is it possible with them, especially in the rising market? Now, I can imagine that if it's a market all the way down, it's a recession, depression, and in this scenario, they would lose 40% comparative to the index. So they may lose, if index would lose, say, 30%, so they must lose 70% of their money to be in that category, as you define most of the investors losing 40% versus index fund. Now, if index fund is going up and it's a good market, so let's say S&P is up, say, 20% for a year, similar to what it's doing now. So these people, according to what you're saying, they're still losing 40%. So they would still be losing 20% comparatively to, so S&P is making up 20%, and instead they're losing 20%. What kind of investments they're choosing? How they manage to do that? Because if you would ask me to try to do something to lose 40% comparatively to the index fund, I would be puzzled. I would really have to work very hard how to do it.
I think
you offer me a deal, Sasha. Okay, I'll pay you $250,000 if you will be able to lose 40% compared to S&P. Do it. I would really have to work very hard to find out how to
I
do
think
it.
I think Sasha, you're talking here about the fact that rising market takes everything up, including garbage, and a falling market brings down everything, including quality investments. And there are two ways which result in investors trailing the market by 40%. And the two investor ways are: one is picking individual stocks, and the other one is market timing. Attempts to time the market are a failure much of the time, if not most of the time, and attempts to pick a winning stock uh, frequently don't work. Now, we talk about rules based investing and judgment based investing. So, rules based investing, there's 6 points which we talk about with our Monday Morning Millionaire members. We have about 300. And number one is save. Without saving, the other five don't work. Number two is do it yourself. As I mentioned earlier, we could teach a high school student how to do it yourself invest in less than 15 minutes. Number three is buy the American market as a whole. The American market as a whole, as represented by an exchange traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, is done better than any other market in over 100 years, and it's likely to continue doing that for a while yet. Uh, Empires have a 100% failure rate, but the failure of the American empire is not in sight yet. So that's number three, American market, buy the American market as a whole, no picking stocks. Number four is buy and hold, no trading, buy and hold. Number five is adjust that buy and hold to equal your asset allocation, which for most people works out at 50-50, 50% in the market, 50% in cash or near cash. And number six is avoid complexity. If you have an investment which you cannot explain to a 12-year-old, don't get into it. So if we keep these six rules in mind and invest that way, we will equal the market. If we try to beat the market, there's a very small number of ways to beat the market. One is dollar cost averaging. That beats the market if we have a source of income other than lump sum generating funds. So if we have a job of any sort and we dollar cost averaging, which means put the same amount of money into the same security during the same period of time, we will beat the market. The other way is to select the right stock, and that doesn't work for most people. I have been able to select the right stock almost never. And we have to accept the fact that regardless of how well we are doing, there will be better investments. There will always be better investments than the ones that we have. We have to accept that. We simply have to do well. How well do we need to do? Well, if we equal the American market, which, as I mentioned, we can teach a high school student to do in less than 15 minutes. If we equal it, we're going to get a little over 6% inflation adjusted. And knowledgeable people tell us that we need to withdraw 4% of our portfolio to live on. If we're withdrawing 4% and making 6%, who needs more? If people want more, they can do so by dollar cost averaging or picking the right stock, which most people are unable to do. Because every time you buy a stock, you're buying it from somebody who is selling it. Can both of you be right? Occasionally, yes, but generally, only one of you can be right. So those are the odds that we shouldn't involve ourselves with.
Hey,
So,
Milan, just really quickly, is it part of the problem with the investment? And I got a question to ask Sasha that's political oriented one, but definitely it seems that a lot of people are not the greatest in terms of even investing in their personal capital. Because I want to say that one of the rules that I have heard for years is that you're not supposed to spend more than 25% of your income on living and all in that space. But so many people in society, whether they're here in the United States or Canada or around the world, are probably spending more than that if they're looking at their mortgage, their rent, and a number of other things.
yeah. Well, the banks want to lend us as much money as possible that they can safely do. So you mentioned the figure 20%. I've heard the figure as much as 30%. So it doesn't matter. To a fifth to a third of our income, according to the banks, could go into housing, and that is safe for the banks. The banks don't want to own your house. And so they pick a percentage which will allow them to make the most money possible as safely as possible.
That makes a lot of sense. Hey, Sasha, one of the things I was going to ask you, and you mentioned Trump really quickly, is I was looking up one of y'all's favorite topics, and yes, I'm being slightly sarcastic about this, but apparently some of the political candidates are actually looking at accepting donations, and that's part of what they are doing in crypto. So apparently that is something they are going, and I'm sure that the industry is doing that because certain candidates are saying that they are going to be crypto friendly. I know that Ted Cruz and Ron DeSantis have said that they're going to be advocates for crypto friendly regulations, and even Donald Trump, who used to be very critical of crypto, has embraced the industry with his own NFT collection. So does that surprise you that the candidates are actually taking money?
Just before Sasha answers your question, I was talking earlier about what we can learn from the Chinese. The Chinese don't allow cryptocurrencies.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But does it surprise you that they are taking this kind of money? I mean, they take money in all kinds of things, and apparently they're taking it in crypto, some of the leading front runners in both the Democratic and the Republican Party. So does this surprise you?
It's quite convenient because there's a lot of money laundering is going on through cryptocurrency. So if they want to use that as an opportunity to have access to funds that otherwise it would be too risky to accept, so that makes a lot of sense. I think the next step will be to take the donations in kind. For example, what that means. Let's see, Mark, you would like to donate to DeSantis, right? You don't have extra money to pay him, but you can do something what you do well. For example, let's see, maybe you're a good singer, right? So you can sing a song. It has certain value because obviously if you sing a nice song and you produce good sound and people can enjoy it or so on, it's worth something. I don't know, it could be worth $1 or maybe $10 or $100 or maybe $1,000. So you're saying is now that I'm contributing in kind equivalent of say $500. Here is a song that I'm singing in that effect, and maybe you'll get the tax receipt that you.
Along those same lines, Sasha, along those same lines, and Milan, correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I have from friends that are in that space. I want to say that's what an NFT is. That is what a number of musicians have been doing. They put up their artwork. Some of it that looks very professional. I'm not a big fan of the Bored Apes. I think that looks very cartoonish and characteristic, but that's just my personal opinion. But there are others that are stronger kind of skills, and some of those are songs. I told you before, I don't have that much in that space, but I do own I think 3 or 4 NFTs, and they're actually from one of my friends, Vesey Minks, who's out of Chicago, and she gave me some songs as an investment and everything, and I can trade those songs that she has given me in that NFT space. So literally that is what NFTs are, from my understanding of them, is that they are a creative product that you can then turn around, and once you obtain them, sell them, you can hold on to them, you can do a number of other things. They almost serve as a type of stock, but it's in that creative lane. And I know a number of artists that are using the NFTs from my understanding of them, and they will even be some very professional musicians. I think there's even probably some Beyonce NFTs and others that are well known to the community.
Just before we expand on that, I'd like to draw attention to a fact that I wasn't aware of until a few years ago, and many of our viewers might not be aware of the fact that a political candidate running for office raising money doesn't get elected. He gets to keep that money personally.
Wow.
There you go. So continue now.
Yeah. Good point and everything. They get to keep that money and they don't have to give it back. So if you
and I don't know whether that money is taxed or not, but it doesn't matter. It's money for which they didn't have to work very hard.
Didn't have to work, collected. So maybe that's the key. Sasha, you got to run for office in Canada. So we're expecting you to run for office in Canada just so you can collect all of this money and then use it, you and your wife and the rest of the family, for very important things. So we're expecting you to.
I'm not sure that works in Canada, but it certainly does in the United States. Yeah. the candidates running for office, not elected, get to keep that money personally.
Well,
Actually, there are very strict regulations of what you can and what you cannot do with the money raised, and you have to always declare reports of how much money you raised, how much money, and on what you spend. So in Canada, it's a little bit more restrictive, and maybe for good reason.
yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Milan, I want to come back to investments and everything. Some people will look at things that are going on in the world and think that they want to jump on those investments because that is what is happening in the world. So I'm sure that a number of people have looked at Pfizer and Moderna and looked at a number of other things, even some of the cleaning products that are supposed to be aimed at fighting COVID and a number of other things, and thinking that those are good investments. So what is your thoughts around investments that are specifically targeted toward what is happening in the world at the time, or should you look for more traditional investments that have a longer history? Because I also know some people in the investment space that say, look for something that's got 100 or 50-year history, so that you know what is going on in that space. But there are others that are more speculative. I believe that's the word I'm looking for, and everything. They'll be like, hey, let's jump on it because Moderna is going to make a whole lot of money, as is Pfizer, off of the COVID vaccine, and I want to make some of that money as well. So what are your thoughts around speculative investment?
Interestingly, a lot depends on the honesty involved. For example, the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere used to be the three Guyanas, British, French, and Dutch Guyana. They found oil recently. They're now going to be headed to be the richest countries in the Western Hemisphere, definitely. However, let's take a look at Venezuela. Venezuela and Iran founded OPEC. In Venezuela, a very small number of people have a very large amount of money, and most people are not benefiting from the fact that Venezuela found oil. Compare that to Norway. Every Norwegian man, woman, and child is a millionaire because they found oil similar to the way that Venezuela found oil, but there is a level of integrity there and honesty and a lack of corruption that you can find in Venezuela. The corruption is endemic and ubiquitous and everywhere. A very small number of people there own a very large amount of money. So that would have to do with any other investment. You have to look at management, and that would, to a large extent, determine the outcome of your investment. Good management can make money selling buggy whips.
Well, along those same lines, and this is for you, Sasha, one of the biggest industries that I have heard out there, we all go through it. I was actually doing, before we started the show, some sorting and destroying, so doing some stuff in the File 13 and all in that space. And I was actually hearing about a documentary recently that was talking about the waste industry, and that is whether it is nuclear waste or whether it is just common trash or whether it is food waste. So it seems to me that if you've got a business that is in the trash business, that you can make a whole lot of money, because we all produce a heap of trash, and yes, I did use that word, heap, on a regular basis and everything. But what is your thoughts about this as an industry? Because I don't care whether you're in Canada, the United States, Britain, or Kenya, or wherever you are in the world, there's a whole lot of trash going on in the world. So I would think that that would be something that could create some major investments if there are companies that are in that industry. And I do know that there are companies in that industry. So is trash something that we should be looking at as a investment opportunity?
Well, I think it's a sound business sector where profits are being made. You have to be selective about which company to buy, because waste management company, it's a whole sector. There are a lot of companies operating in different areas, and you have to look at the picture. You have to analyze the management, whether they pay dividends, and maybe many other factors. I don't know if they can demonstrate a growth similar to many high-tech companies in US, because they're operating in certain physical constraints. It's an area where they're operating. In order for them to be more profitable, more garbage has to be disposed and collected and processed and do something. Is that growing trend that there will be more and more garbage? I'm not so sure.
May I make a comment here?
Please.
It has to do with something I mentioned previously. The waste industry today could be compared to automobiles in the last 19th century, at the end of the 19th century. At the end of the 19th century, there were 2,000 automobile companies. And automobiles were the hot area to be in. Now, by 2008, of those 2,000 automobile companies, there were 3 left. And of the 3, 2 went bankrupt. Ford did okay. Could you have, in the late 1900s, when automobiles were the hot industry like garbage disposal is today, could you have picked the Ford Motor Company? One chance.
You're talking about 100+ years span. Don't forget that out of 2,000 companies, not all of them went bankrupt. Some of them were being purchased. Some of them were being reorganized, and so on. So it's a cliche that only 1 out of 2,000 is effective and profitable, like Ford, and all other 1,999. They all went down and everybody lost all the money.
Oh, you're quite right, Sasha. You're quite right. But that doesn't change the fact that your prospects of picking the correct one are pretty slim. Whether regardless of how hot the industry itself might be. The industry is hot, but you cannot, I think maybe you can actually invest in the industry itself by purchasing a fund which tracks that industry. I guess it's possible that way to benefit from the industry itself. But picking the right the company in a growing industry is very, very difficult. Regardless.
Yeah, so you're proposing not only is by buying in the waste management industry, you're providing millions and millions of dollars to the top management of these companies. Now you're saying, no, it's not enough. You also have to pay for the millions of dollars of the keepers of the fund which invest into waste management. So let's pay them as well their millions of dollars. What? Don't you feel a pity for them? So let's go all the way, pay millions here and millions there. Now you tell me what will be left for investors.
Well, I'm basically against picking individual stocks of any sort. Picking the entire U.S. market has worked for over 100 years with fluctuations as much as 30% annually, but over 100 years. And so, Confucius said, if study the past, if you would define the future.
Milan, but we just discussed the very specific segment of the market, which is the waste management. Yeah. So I agree with you on S&P 500, buy all America and all that stuff, although I don't agree with that, but it makes at least some sense. Now, about the just the sector, what we just discussed in waste management, that one doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
The sector, Mark, Sasha, is there a way that you could invest in the waste management sector without picking individual stocks, but the sector?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are ETFs and other devices that you can invest in waste management. I would rather select 2-3 good waste management companies and buy their individual stock, but that goes against what you're suggesting. So this way, I will not touch waste management companies.
You're an exceptional investor. You're an investment star, Sasha Star, and most of us aren't. So
okay, you know what, Milan, we still have a couple of minutes left. Let's come back to reality and help people to make some money. Okay, you all know the company Microsoft, right? Mm-hmm. A good company, well run, profitable. Yes, it even pays a little dividends, very small, but still. Now, here's what I've done with Microsoft. Today, Microsoft is down as all market, which is probably bad for people who hold the stock, especially if they bought it on a very high level. However, let's look a little bit more into it. So what I see is that Microsoft is trading now about $338 a share. It's precisely 327.75. So it's close to 338. Now, Microsoft could fluctuate. Let's agree on that. It could still
Yes,
go
they
in.
all do. They all do. Yeah.
Yeah, it can still go lower. It can still go higher. We don't know. However, one fact is that September 1st, 320 puts are trading now around $6. What that means? For $6, you are being paid for each put that you sell. Let's say you sell, say 5 puts, so you're paying you've been paid $3,000 for the obligation to buy that stock before September, including September 1st this year, for a price of $320. So because you were paid up front $6, so your essential, if you will be exercised, your price would be $314.
You're making a profit.
Stock is trading now at around close to 328. So what, and it's a good sound company and so on. So what is your problem to acquire a few hundred shares at 314, which is a huge discount to today's price, and you're being paid up front, and if the stock will be 320 and higher, you will keep the premium.
Sasha and Milan, just really quickly, quick question popped in my head and everything. There are a lot of companies out there because a lot of people are going back to work. We were in this whole COVID pandemic. A lot of people are going back to the office. Some people are going on the employment hunt and going to work to new companies. And a lot of companies, when you go to work for them, will have you invest in the company that you are working for. So what is your thoughts around employee stock options and those of that nature? Because I do know that there are a number of companies, in particularly the corporate world, that offer you this opportunity to invest back in the company that you work for. Is that a good investment or a bad investment? Or should you do some research, get with a stock analyst or somebody in that space? Or should you just automatically think that if you're going to work, say, for IBM, that and they offer you that option, or Red Hat, that you want to invest in those spaces? Because I know that that's a conversation that's been going on for years, and I do have some friends that have invested in their companies that they have worked for exactly that reason. They came to work at the company, and then the company offered them these kind of packages.
Okay. If we take a look at history, Enron will be a great example of that. People who work for Enron were invited to buy Enron shares, and I think
Right.
that people will get them at a discount. And when Enron failed, they lost everything, and people in their 70s had to go back and be greeters at Walmart. So it's not really such a great idea if you're dealing with Enron. However, if you're dealing with the right company, and I have never been able to pick the right company except with hindsight, so I assume that would be true for most people. Gerald Loeb, who wrote this book, A Battle of Investment Survival, he wrote that book about 80 years ago, and it's still available in recent publications, said, put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. Now, what Sasha was saying about the drop in Microsoft prices, you said previously, Sasha, that if security drops 7%, I think that's the figure you used, sell it. Whereas we think that if the market drops 7%, you should buy more because it's a bargain. Not because an individual stock drops, because it may keep on dropping till it falls out of bed like Enron did.
Milan, I don't know what to add to. I don't think that whatever I'm saying, like my example with Microsoft, I don't think it's understood neither by you nor by Michael, nor by Mark. And I don't have any problem with that. I'm trying to help people here. Those people who are able to use my help, that's fine. Good luck to them. Those people who don't understand what I'm trying to say is very different thing. About dollar cost averaging, you know my opinion. I would like to dollar cost average on a rising stock. I will never use dollar stock average on a stock which going, or market at whole which is going down. However, I would like to mention something. For example, Microsoft is definitely a market leader. It's a less riskier company than many in the same league, whether it's Netflix, Nvidia, and many others. Microsoft is the less riskier company of them all. So now we are talking about scenario. I'm not doing cost averaging because right now I don't have any shares of Microsoft, but I would love to have them, but I don't want to pay today's price.
You know
I'm
what,
not going to
what
pay
you said
today's
earlier,
price.
what you
But
said.
if I will acquire at way lower price than the market is today, if that happens, I would be very happy if I will get assigned on Microsoft.
You know
I don't
what,
think it will
what,
happen though.
yeah, what you said earlier, Sasha, is you recommended selling cash secured puts. Selling is the answer. You always make money when you sell a covered call or a cash.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, so that's the way to do it. Yeah.
But you see, I'll tell you why selling covered cash secured put is much less riskier than selling covered calls, including S&P 500, because my underlying security cash is not going to go down. The same cash.
no,
Let's say I have
yeah, that's true. Now,
absolutely, and
how
when you're selling covered call and your underlying security is going down, there's no defense because that.
no, you're right about that, Sasha. You're right.
Rubber.
To assess the quality of a stock, we should not go to market analysts because market analysts all work for a bank or an investment bank, and it is.
Did I say anything about
Yeah,
market analysts?
You can't trust them, but you can trust Morningstar. Morningstar analysts are objective. They work for no bank. They analyze stocks on their own, and you can buy a subscription to Morningstar for a couple $100 a year.
Bill, and I'm sorry, Morningstar analyst would tell me, Sasha, sell covered puts, cash secured puts on Microsoft and you'll make very easy money. No, they will not tell you that. You have
They don't. Yeah,
you have to
that's true.
unlock
Yeah.
the potential of the profitable trade yourself. No analyst will suggest it to you.
No, you're right about that. But they do evaluate stocks using tested metrics such as price earnings ratios and those kind of things that come out of financial statements. So that Morningstar people, what I'm saying is they can be and they are objective, which doesn't apply to bank analysts.
Bill, and how useful they are, because all these analytics, what they're using, it's available to everybody. It's readily available. 30 years ago, you were right, because you had to go to library and pick up all these books and manuals and so on. Today, you click the button and you have all Morningstar's information available. But it's not useful. You know why? Because every idiot has the same information. So they're not helping you in any way. You are wasting your time. It doesn't matter whether you pay for the service, you get it for free. It doesn't matter. It's worthless.
You're talking here about the efficient market theory, I think, Sasha, for which somebody won the Nobel Prize, the efficient market theory. And so it's been said that because everybody has all the information available, a blindfolded monkey throwing darts at a stock quotation will equal or outperform the market. And that's been tested, actually, by the Wall Street Journal, who for 14 years ran this sort of thing where the Wall Street Journal analysts were throwing darts at a quotation page, and they equaled market analysts' performance.
Milan, you need something more than monkey analogy that you just said to sell cash secured puts.
True.
Monkeys are not going to do that for you.
That's
okay?
right.
Plus, Sasha, the animal rights activists might get mad at you if you do that with actual monkeys and everything along those lines and everything. Hey, Sasha, I just got to teach you about something because I know on the news show earlier we had nonprofit expert who is on and all in that space. So for you and Milan, is there any nonprofit that you would invest in? Because I know some people that will invest in, say, the United Way or Red Cross or some of the other bigger nonprofits. Or is nonprofit something that you think that investors should stay away from and all in that space? Because there are some that are on the market.
Mark, before Milan, I'm taking 40 seconds to answer that. There is no such thing as investment in non-profit, because investment means that you put in some money where you want to get more than you invested, because otherwise it's not even investment, it's something else. So
but you're investing in the nonprofit itself.
Hold on. In non-profit, people put money that they want to get a tax receipt, which will lower their taxes. There is no any other reasons to put any money into non-profit organization. Milan, please.
I agree with that.
But aren't there nonprofits that are on the S&P and stuff like that? Because I thought that I saw some nonprofits that are listed. Or are they all for-profit corporations? Or am I mistaken? If I'm mistaken, correct me. But I think that there are some nonprofits that are listed on the S&P.
How is that possible? On S&P, all companies listed on S&P, they are profitable or supposed to be profitable companies. Otherwise, they will never make it to S&P.
Are you talking about ESG companies, Mark, rather than nonprofit?
That might be what I'm talking about, but I know that there are some that are in that nonprofit area. So, like I said, I thought that Red Cross and others were listed on some of the stock exchanges, but I'm actually doing a Google search to double check myself and everything, because that's what you, like Sasha said, you can double check stuff if you're not 100% sure.
I never heard anybody to put even $1 in a non-profit with any idea to make some profit on it. However, if you have a large tax to pay and you want to reduce your tax, and you put some of the money that you don't really need for anything, and you put into some charity, maybe your friend runs a charity or your relative or whoever else, so you put some money there, you have a tax credit that you will use to reduce your taxes. That's the only way to put some money into. So I would not call it investment. I would put as a charity, as some other vehicles. So, but again, I don't know what else I can contribute.
No, that's fair enough. And like I said, it's an education program. Your show is, and I oftentimes learn quite a bit and even get some ideas of things that I might want to invest in when I get some additional capital and all along those lines. So that's why I ask the questions, because there's other people that are probably in my same position that are asking and wondering some of these same things. So that's why
all I'm trying to show people how to make money in this market. There are trillions of dollars changing hands every single day. And all I'm trying is to get just a very, very tiny percentage of it, even a few $1,000, something like this. That's good enough for me. So $1,000 here, $3,000 there. Microsoft, I'm expecting to make $1,200 in a matter of 3 weeks. Is it a good investment? I think so. If you will annualize that, you're talking about huge profits. If you will figure out
is Microsoft a good investment? You're buying it. Where are you buying it from? You're buying it.
Excuse me. I'm not buying anything from anybody. All I did, I sold. I didn't buy. I sold goods. Which would allow me at certain conditions, would allow me to buy Microsoft shares of $314, while they are traded now at around $328. Is that a good trade? Yes, I will get a huge discount on a very, very solid and profitable company. I think this is very sound investment. No monkey will be able to do it. No Morningstar or any other advisory will tell you, Milan, you want to make some money? Okay, here, you do this. No one will tell you, only Sasha Stark, nobody else. With that, I would like to finish.
I would tell the same thing, Sasha, as you, Yes.
Okay. With that, I would like to finish.
Just to finish my thought, and then I'm going to turn it over to y'all to end and everything. There are certain states that do allow nonprofits to issue stocks. So it's not a national thing, but Kansas, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania do allow nonprofit or corporations to be organized on a stock share basis. So I was not totally incorrect in thinking that there are some nonprofits out there that have some stock type options and stock allowances. Now it is not widespread, but it is out there. I thought that I
Now,
heard
did
that.
I hear you correctly? You're discussing some options on non-profit corporation?
They are allowed, certain states allow certain nonprofits to issue stocks, so they can issue stocks to nonprofits that can themselves.
Oh
But
my God! So there are stocks tradable in the non-profit corporations? Is that
yes,
what
in
you're
certain
saying?
states in America, Kansas, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. So those are some fairly
But
large size
oh,
states. Yes.
okay, you get. I never was a sort of expert on a non-profit corporation. I'm much more interested in profitable corporations. But if you're talking about non-profit, how their shares could represent any value if there are non-profits? Because non-profit corporations designed not to have any profits. All they designed to do is to pay huge salaries to people who run them.
Well, let's just look at Wisconsin. One of the biggest cases is actually we're getting ready to come up on football, and I know for a lot of people in the world, football is soccer, but I'm talking about the American football. And there is a company, or a team here called the Green Bay Packers. They are uh, citizen owned and everything, and they also have one of the longest histories of a nonprofit issuing stock. So you literally can have a stock in the Green Bay Packers, and they are the only football team that is owned by the city and thus a nonprofit. So those people do have stock in that particular franchise and everything. And the Green Bay Packers have had some tremendous success in the NFL. So there might be some people that are making some money off of being Green Bay Packer nonprofit investors because they are investing in that particular team, which is a nonprofit there in one of those four states, that being Wisconsin.
Mark, I think you're very convincing, by the way, and I think when I will when I will collect my profits from the Microsoft trade, I think I will call you and ask how all those investments are doing, but not before. And I would like to tell you, there are some people asking me, for example, how they can be a better piano players and what they should do to play better and play more complicated tunes, and whether they have to practice 3 hours a day or 5 hours a day or whatever it is. You know what my advice is? After taking deliberations and thinking about this issue, I told them that the piano players are being divided on two hugely unequal parts. The part number one, a huge one. Piano players who are making less money than piano tuners. And second section, very small one, there are piano players who are making more money than piano tuners. Okay? So you have to understand where I'm going to. Unless you have, for example, like in the piano, let's say you have such a strong desire to play and you love it so much, there is no single thing in the world that you would like to do more than play piano. It doesn't matter how much money you will make out of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Just go and play and 8 hours a day and 10 hours a day and 14 hours a day and just as many hours as you are able to do it because you enjoy it. It's your path. Unfortunately, if you don't have enough talent or so on, you will make quite
It makes hardly no money at all because the talent is definitely what rules and everything. And speaking of talent, if I come down with a windfall, because I have a great deal of respect for you, Sasha, and I've learned to have a great deal of respect because I met him later for Milan as well. So if there is investment, I've told you that there is some investments that I have that are family oriented and those are protected like timber and a number of other things. But if I come down with a windfall of cash, I can honestly say that I would give you, Milan, and you, Sasha, probably Sasha first because I've known Sasha longer, a call to help me make those investments because I do trust y'all's opinion and all along those lines. So I do have a great deal of respect for your investment skills, and I know that that is a skill that I do not have at all in that space.
Mark, what would I suggest you? You understand this Microsoft trade which I have described. Do you understand the mechanics of this trade?
No, I understand the Microsoft trade, and Microsoft would be something that if I got that windfall, I would be looking at because I've always been a fan of Microsoft, and you definitely laid out some reasons around Microsoft. So I would probably be looking strongly at
No,
Microsoft
but
instead of
the name Microsoft is very small thing of what I've explained.
Mhm.
It's a method of selling a certain
Sure.
security which you will get either would expire worthless in a few weeks,
Right?
actually by I think it was by September 1st. It will expire worthless, and all the money that you've collected, it's yours to keep.
Right.
Okay, number two, so in my case, okay, so I've collected $1,200. It's not a big deal, but it's mine to keep. So what's wrong with that? It's trading now at $6. I sold two puts, so okay, it's $1,200. Not a big deal, but if you make 1,200 today and 1,400 tomorrow, and then there is another trade would come up by the end of the week after the job reports and so on. So slowly, I'm making the progress by not risking a lot of money. I'm not buying some kind of stock that will fly one day and will drop down another day. No, I'm playing very careful, very conservative game.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're doing the safe way of investing. There's other people that are willing to take risk and everything. Because I do know some investors that, like, I'm just going to use another person that is on our network. There are a lot of folks that will look at esports and they will see how much money esports makes, and they will think that investing in an esports company could be well worth the return. Now, I do know that that could be considered a risky investment, but if the person that is involved, and I'm talking about the trophy in this case, knows what they are doing in that lane and they have experts in that lane as well, then it might be worth investing in said esports company, because esports is bigger than all of the American sports combined in terms of the amount of money that it makes. So that being said, it might be worth investing in an esports company if I think that there could be a profit made, but that would be a risky investment versus some of the safe investments that you and Milan are talking about.
Mark, there are a lot of different investments. You can buy today a used clarinet, for example,
Mhm.
and if you're lucky, you'll sell tomorrow for double the price. Buy a clarinet for, say, $45, and tomorrow you can go to some student who is still learning clarinet, and you sell it for $90, and you'll double your money in a matter of a day.
Yeah,
Right?
that's pretty much what everybody does when they go to a pawn shop. Because most people, when they go to a pawn shop, they are pawning something that is of value, and they sometimes will, when they get it back at a profit. Sometimes they wind up losing some money, but that's the whole nature of pawn shops, which are very popular in the United States as well.
Mark, when I was younger, say around 30 some years ago, I was buying penny stocks of company trading in the Vancouver Stock Exchange. I started to buy that stock at 50 cents a share. It ended up, and I bought 50,000 shares because that's all the money that I had available, cash at the time. But then I was able to accumulate many, many more shares. They went up to $4.70. My average price was $1.25. And around that time, around $4 to $4.25, I sold half of my shares. So you can calculate how much money I've made. But I was ignorant at that time. I didn't understand what I was doing. I couldn't figure out what's the amount of risk I was taking.
Yeah.
For example, the broker lady that I did this all trades at the time, it was no electronic traders. So she told me that you're doing incredibly risky thing. You can lose all your money easily. However, she started to put her many other clients when the stock was around $1.80. And I said, how is it right that you wouldn't touch the stock at 50 cents, but now you're putting your clients at $1.80? She said, because it's much more proven investment than it was then at 50 cents. Now there is information about what this company doing. The stock price is extremely good. So if you look at the chart, it's going nowhere but higher and higher and higher, and therefore you can buy $1.80, you can buy more at 250 or so on. And she was right. She was professional.
Yeah,
at that
you're talking about momentum investing there, Sasha, which works. Momentum investing works. But I wanted to ask you about investing in Microsoft. Sorry, selling cash secured puts in Microsoft. Why not choose SPY to sell your covered cash secured puts in instead of Microsoft? Instead of an individual stock, why not select the entire market by doing so with SPY?
Okay, I'll tell you why. First of all, compare the premiums, what you can collect on. Let's see, if you will take downturn on Microsoft from where it is today, 428 to 314, there is a huge gap that still allows you to collect very substantial premium. On S&P, of course, it doesn't work that way. You would not get even a fraction of a premium available Microsoft. Also, ideally, both S&P and Microsoft would not going down substantially, at least stay the same, maybe even go higher. I'm winning in both cases. In my opinion, Microsoft has more staying power and upside potential than S&P, and S&P, on the other hand, has potential to go in percentage lower than Microsoft, because Microsoft is one of the leaders of S&P. So on the other hand, if I wanted to short the stock, I would select one of the S&P stock, which is a laggard of the market, which is not doing very well.
Okay.
There are some stocks like this, not too many, but again, I think, again, I know that I'm going against your idea of stock selection with the S&P as a whole, but in my opinion, it's no-brainer that Microsoft is probably more promising investment than S&P, because I can't really have a picture where S&P is flying all the way up and Microsoft doesn't.
No, that's true.
I fail to see that scenario.
Tell me about how you benefit from the Microsoft dividend by selling cash secure puts on it. You don't.
I don't care about dividends. First of all, Microsoft is paying very, very small dividend. I think less than 1%. So in my situation, dividends is non-issue.
Yeah. Because if you're writing covered calls on any security, you benefit from the dividend that it pays when it does, if it does so, if you happen to own it at that time, which you can time easily.
Milan, but you know what the problem is? If the stock pays a dividend, any meaningful dividend, I'm not even talking about 8%, like some of my stocks are paying. But let's see, say 4.5% is excellent dividend, okay? So if you will analyze premiums on calls on the stocks, they're not very great. They're not great at all. So therefore, if you want to play the game of covered calls, you're not selecting stocks with dividends. You collect some others. But again, I think overall, never mind S&P situation as a whole, selling covered calls in S&P. Okay, everyone wants to enhance its profit potential, but on S&P, their premiums are not that great. But if your strategy is staying with S&P because you are scared of individual stocks that you may not be right. So at least in your fund portfolio, you can do that. But in your core portfolio, that's your core strategy, S&P. There's nothing else you can do. So okay, you can sell. See, selling because of the premiums are not that great. Essentially, okay, you sell a few times on a rising market, you collect additional premiums, selling covered calls. But then there are a few days that the market can substantially drop. Let's see if today's day, let's see, there will be 2-3 more days like today, it will evaporate. Whatever premiums you were getting from covered calls, it will evaporate. So therefore, mm, I'm not. I'm not ready to say that this is. I think it's very defensive strategy what you're pursuing.
Hey,
You
Sasha,
are
I
trying
know
to
we
get your 6% annual return. I think most likely you will get that.
Yeah.
I know we're winding down and everything. We're definitely at the top of the hour, but just really quickly, and if you and Milan have a quick answer, I know that we get listeners from all over and they are of different economic backgrounds. So if somebody's been watching this show and say they are in Compton or they are in a poor area in Kansas, can you give them a reason that they should be considering going into the stock in the investment market and how they can do that to maybe even get themselves out of that position? Because I know some people will probably be watching this show and some of the other shows that are on the internet, including on Pod TV, and going like, I like the theory. It's a great theory, but it's not in my realm of what I can afford because I'm trying to survive on my Kansas farm. And I'm just using Kansas as an example and everything.
Milan?
Yeah, and an individual buying the American market as a whole, which is now trading, say, the SPY, an exchange traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, is trading at about $450 a share. So you need about $45,000 to buy 100 shares. But if you are a beginner, you can buy one share only. And then when you have more money, buy another 2 shares and so on. So then you will be taking full advantage of the growth of the American market, which has been the fastest growing market for over 100 years. You can participate in that without a lot of money. Buy 1 share, buy 2 shares. When you get more, buy more. And so that will ensure the best return on your investment with the lowest amount of risk.
Milan, I agree with your suggestion. For beginners, I think this is the best way to buy 1 share, 5 shares, whatever they are able to afford, and slowly build a portfolio. The difference is that once you will get to the level of 100 shares, that would allow you to sell covered calls, which could be in most cases beneficial for you. And the non-beginners who have some experience and understanding of the market, I would definitely offer the advanced strategies similar to what I've discussed today with the cash security.
I agree. I agree. So,
But it's not for everybody.
the first rule of effective investing is save. Save. So pay yourself first. Pay yourself before you pay anybody else. And so saving, the length of time is more important than the amount you save. That's important. It's more important than the percentage return that you get on your savings. Of the 3 factors that enter in the growth of your savings. 1 is the amount that you save, 2 is the percentage that earns, and 3 is the length of time that it's working for you. And the length of time is the most important one. That contributes more to growth than anything else. So start saving early, pay yourself first. Doesn't have to be a large amount. Just make sure that it happens and that it's working for your entire life until retirement.
Speaking of saving, off to Sasha and everything, I was just going to say that at 3 o'clock, we have a show that is about saving people's lives when they are dealing with a part of society. And some people may agree or not agree, but there is a lot of folks that are concerned about those that have been unfairly imprisoned because of the cannabis industry. So definitely the gentleman that does that show will be coming our way at 3 o'clock. And that is the show that is every Wednesday, which is called Weeds Wednesday. So Jeff Eichen will be coming. I know Jeff Eichen is your friend, but Jim, that's right, for the first time. Jeff Eichen will be coming here and he will be the host of that show at 3 o'clock. So Jeff Eichen will be talking about those folks that are trying to get out for what is considered a nonviolent crime and also other aspects of the cannabis industry. So I'm going to leave it at that and then talk off to you, Sasha, to close out the show and everything. But just wanted folks to know what else is coming up on Pod TV.
Thank you, Mark, and Milan, thank you very much for your participation in today's show.
Delighted to be here.
I hope some people will end up making money on the trade I suggested, and if not, they will not lose any money for sure.
Yeah.
So that's the ideal situation. Either you not lose money or you make money. Either way, you're a winner. Thank you so much, and see you same place, same time next week. Have a successful week of trading. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye.